Hey, I'm Madonna Guy, and this is David Sheil from New Leaf Natural Therapies. We wanted to talk about mental health today because there's so much going on the planet and there's lots of different causes, so we just wanted to give a few hints and tips as to what might be going on and how we can help things. So for a start, David is a holistic counsellor, I'm a naturopath, and the two really blend beautifully together in order to get some really good success for people who are suffering from depression and anxiety and post-traumatic stress and betrayal syndrome and trauma.
All types of things, and sometimes family issues. Basically, anything where people need they want to make some sort of change.
Yeah, because most people need, and that's the funny thing about mental health, most people need a huge amount of pain or punishment in their life before they're willing to change. People are much more willing to go with what they know rather than make a change to something that they're not aware of.
Yeah, that's true actually. It takes a lot of courage to actually work out, because generally, and the reason for that is that we always have a tendency to go towards homeostasis, to bring balance back into our system. And so even in a case of a family system, say, that's dysregulated, so just say you've got a dysregulated family system, the problem with changing is that when one person changes, it changes the rest of the dynamics of the system. So there is some sort of risk if it's not done well.
Yeah. So homeostasis is balance, but the balance for one person is not the same as the balance for someone else. Right. So if I've been abused badly as a child, then that is my balance.
But that's the homeostasis.
That's the homeostasis.
So people from more families with more childhood trauma and that sort of thing, the homeostasis is actually quite unhealthy. So what the family level gets to within that group, it's not really a healthy homeostasis.
Yeah.
It's that, and so if people grow up in dysregulated homes, they're more likely to imitate that and drive towards that homeostasis in their new family if their issues from their childhood weren't resolved or set out. Because in a trauma situation, people develop adaptions.
Yes. Now, one of the things about adaptions is that can be anything from having a poor diet, because those are our comfort foods. They've done lots of studies with things like depression, where what they've done is scans on people's brain, in whatever machine that would be, and they've basically had people imagining eating addictive foods, and the more depressed we are, the more the dopamine hit we get from eating something naughty that we're addicted to. Whereas the more balanced we are in a good way, good homeostasis, instead of dysregulated homeostasis, if someone's actually balanced, they don't get much of a dopamine hit in comparison.
Still, dopamine is measured like, just say you've got, like the way they measure it, they'll say chocolate will be 50 allocations, and maybe something like nicotine will be like 150. And then the stronger drugs, they go right up to like 2,000 for methamphetamine, about 1,000 for amphetamine, and cocaine, and then they're around 700 or 800.
Yeah.
And they're just averages, trying to work it out. Whereas the things that do produce dopamine naturally, there's lots of things: being in the sun, doing exercise, and getting homeostasis with those things.
Yeah, and when someone has a high ACEs score, and there's places online where you can go and actually do a quick little test to see how much out of 10 your ACEs score was when you were a child, the higher the ACEs score, the more likely you are to develop addictions, because the body needs something to actually make them feel good.
Because when they started studying the ACE study, the original part of it was a doctor working with people with weight loss or weight gain. And so there was a lot of bulimic, anorexic, or very much overweight people. And what the doctor was called Vince Folletti, and what he kept finding was that the people with weight problems, so they had this really brilliant diet, I think it was in the 80s, and they could get everybody to their optimum thing, but then after a year or two, they'd be back to where they were. And he discovered that a lot of these people had childhood abuse, and more often sexual abuse, and that became a common factor of understanding how the things that happen in our childhood, they're extended out lifelong if they're not dealt with. So just like anything, like something like ADHD, if you've got a kid with a spectrum disorder, the earlier you find it, the more valuable it can be in its readaptation to a better way of doing it. Because in the case of ADHD, they've got this range of symptoms like time blindness, where they're just locked in the present and they don't feel past, present, future like normal people. They have now and not now. And so the earlier you can get, especially the parents, to understand what's going on,
Yeah.
the earlier you can get some treatment, not necessarily drugs. There's a range of adaptations that therapists can use, that you can do herbally.
Yeah.
And then if in severe cases they use the drugs, because actually some people with ADHD cause a lot of damage in the world.
Yeah. And the thing is, there are natural solutions for all of this as well. So some people will go the medical route, but a lot of people can't take those drugs. They don't have the ability to metabolize them, and they can get everything from psychosis to depression to brain spasms and brain zaps and all sorts of things, both going on them, staying on them, and getting off them. So it's really a big thing these days for people to be trying to find alternatives.
They have something like 30 to 40% success rate. And to find
The
that,
medications.
the medications, but to find that you often have to go through 4 or 5 different things to test whether
Right.
they suit people or not. So if they're, and there's often some benefit, because I know people who've done well out of them with very short term, and they've been able to go from very sluggish, bad social environment to getting really good marks. I knew one girl, she was just on it for a year and a half, and now she's still an A student.
Yeah.
And she hasn't taken them for several years now, and she's 16.
Just wanted to quickly mention the ACE. You know, that's the Adverse Childhood Events Study. So that's what the ACE is. Adverse Childhood Experience Study. So it was done over decades. Really cool information. But yeah, so
Well, that's a trauma thing. And so...
no, but that's many
Sure.
children's experience.
Right, that's right.
So
And they go through all the ranges of neglect and trauma. So for example, examples of ACE scores are if a parent is drug dependent or alcohol dependent,
yeah,
or if one parent divorces, or
Yes.
or if your parents divorce, or if there's physical violence in the home. There's quite a broad range of different varieties of adverse experience for children. And the reason that they use those particular
which can
numbers,
lead to them being neuro-spicy.
right. But they've done updates, and they keep finding there's more and more aspects contributing to this.
Yeah.
But the thing is because it's trauma, grief and loss related, the first thing to do is use positive therapy to get people balanced and stabilised. And then when people are ready to go for the traumatic thing, it's very hard. It can be a long process and something that's hard to move. And like you said in the beginning, people don't want to touch it.
Yeah.
Because they feel often with this complex trauma, they feel their health is already bad enough.
Yeah.
Because they'll often, with people with high ACE scores, very confusing and damaged relationships, not only with their extended families, because a lot of it's generational trauma. It came from their families, it was seeded in that, and now it passes on to the next family.
Yeah. And even things like, like one of my older ladies, I was in a chat with her one day during one of our treatment protocols, and one of her comments was, well, everyone got raped in those days. So even something as horrific as rape was so mainstream when she was a teenager that it was simply just something that everyone put up with, which is, once again, it's quite horrific that her ACE score just simply included that as part of her upbringing. So therefore, what do you do in your ego defense mechanisms, your survival patterns in order to help to protect you? You know, your defenses will be up, your boundaries will be up, or not. They might be really low.
That's right. So there's 2 things that can happen. So with a higher ACE score, over 4 usually, they say over 4, it might have some significant impact. And
this is out of 10.
This is out of 10. And so somebody who's got an ACE score over 4 has 2 likelihoods. One, they'll be re-victimised through their whole life.
Yeah.
If they were victimised. But if they learn to adapt in ways to lie, to manipulate, to get their needs met. So you're a little kid, you go to your mum and you go, I'm feeling like this. Oh, go away, I don't have time. I'm busy, I'm doing something, or I'm switching off, I live in my bedroom. I heard that example yesterday on a thing by a trauma expert. And their cases, and the thing is, so the kid goes, well, what do I do? And they might get angry,
Yeah.
or they might tell a fib. They might exaggerate their symptoms just to get mum or dad's attention. And so those things that they learn to do to get their needs met can end up with attachment disorders. So that it would end up in avoidant attachment because the kids need, and so they'll accelerate something to get their needs met. They might get it round the back, like, oh, I need this, so maybe they'll steal some money, or I need this, and then maybe so they'll manipulate their brother and sister to get what they want. And those adaptions, when they're in childhood, you don't notice them, but when you become an adult who's manipulative or who tells lies about things, they're called maladaptions.
Yes.
And then by the time you're an adult, maybe you're in your 20s trying to start a relationship, or maybe you've been in a relationship for 4 times, these adaptions come out and they hit everyone around them because they have that type of effects, like and the kids are living in the environment where the manipulation's happening, where the truth isn't being told, and where, so essentially people have to be inauthentic, and that's what the adaptions are. They're a false self.
Yeah, absolutely. And from, I might actually should, so from this perspective, it can, sort of this positive therapy is really important. Like
Positive
that's hugely
therapy,
important.
because they found that going into the trauma straight away often re-traumatises people, because it's...
And is this how most counsellors or psychologists work? They go straight into trauma because that's where people think they need to go?
That's been that in the past, but
right?
The most recent studies are, especially with kids, to find balance first. Because if you do the positive therapy work and maybe helping with some skill training and helping them to find all the things that they need to distract or heal, like it might be music, and you get all those things down, people can get a fair level of stability, and you shouldn't do trauma therapy until people have actually stabilised and maybe going up a little bit. That's what they say, and especially if there's something like dissociation, which means that they actually their adaptions are in full play.
Yeah, so I think that's a really nice little overview of mental health, but there's so much that can be done from the naturopathic perspective. Positive therapy might be things like kinesiology or Reiki, or even the nutritionals, things like L-tryptophan and 5-HTP and melatonin for helping sleep, and lots of herbs make us feel really nice.
Because they help with the nervous system.
They help with the nervous system.
And the nervous system is the thing that gets out of hand. So when people end up with adaptions that aren't working, they might get angry too often. Do you know what I mean? That'll be one of the things. It'll be just too emotional. Because what happens is that when we're kids, we get those feelings and we push them all down.
Yeah.
Because generally in trauma families, feelings aren't allowed.
Yes.
Right? And so it's like, because feelings aren't allowed, in adult life, they don't allow other people's feelings, because when they express their feelings as kids, they were denied. And in these families, this type of thing happens, according to the theorists, that you get ideas like, get over it, be quiet, don't talk to me about that. Right? Whereas normal people, they're like, the kid comes with a problem, oh, so that happened, how do you feel? And you let them describe the feelings, because the feelings are the thing that get cut off. And not we want to overdo on feelings, because feelings are also can be selfish, but generally, when people describe things when they're traumatised, it's all words and ideas.
Right.
Right? And it's not even facts. There'll be exaggeration in pushing things around. But when somebody says, this happened, and just describe the feelings, there's no finger pointing, there's just, that made me feel really sad. When that thing happened, I felt betrayed, I felt really hurt, and I haven't been able to get over it for a long time. Often will be the case. And so just talking about the feelings is a lot more healthy, because people get into fighting patterns over this stuff. But the feelings themselves, except people go, I feel like this, so I hate you. But that attribution isn't helpful to anybody, and it never was. Maybe it was helpful as a child, but as an adult it's not helpful.
Yeah. So I think that's a really nice little overview.
Well, because the other thing is that it is helpful to have, like a lot of the supplements, I've had some health problems and I've used many of the supplements over time. They can reduce stress, they just make you feel better. Like I'm taking one herb at the moment because I'm a bit stressed, called Inflamood.
It's called Inflamood, and it's got a combination of activated curcuminoids and saffron. And the activated curcuminoids help to calm down inflammation in the brain, and the saffron is an antidepressant. There's heaps of research on saffron now. The fact that it's one of the most expensive herbs on the planet really stinks, but the combination is just beautiful. So you cannot have anxiety or depression or autism or being neuro-spicy or bipolar without inflammation of your brain. That is inflammation of the brain.
Right.
And so many things cause inflammation. And once again, the calming techniques, the positive therapy, the breathing processes, the prayer, the belief systems, all of that is so powerful. Herbs can help you along. Kinesiology can help you along. Lots of things can really move us in the right direction there.
But herbs are really quite powerful. So these ones, because I take them, I just take one in the morning with another herb, and they just put me into a good mood.
Yeah.
And that's actually really, it's really significant because, we've all taken medical drugs over the time. I've taken antidepressants, and I've taken just for very short periods, and I did one to give up cigarettes once. But they had a bit of a...
You had some side effects.
I had some side effects, and I'm not being really critical, but with herbs it seems to be... what they do is they cut the edges off things. Most of them suppress because they're blockers, they block neuroreceptors. So they're like...
herbs.
No,
you
drugs.
said
and
herbs.
And people
say...
say...
so drugs do, they block
say,
receptors.
oh, they took the edges off. And so they're
But people are also numb. People feel numb. People feel not alive. People don't feel like themselves either.
Some people do very good on them. But
not the people I see.
Yeah, well, see, the
so I think that's
the problem
thing.
is working in allied health, you end up picking up the people where it didn't work.
Yeah.
And because most people who have a difficulty, because I can say we had a discussion in our counselling supervision thing last week, and it seems to me that when people have difficult experiences, they don't go tell their doctor, they just don't go back.
Yeah.
And they find some way to get off it.
Yeah.
But I never told the doctor. And so I think, and I'm finding, researching, that's more likely that, so the doctors mightn't know.
Yeah, and I think one of the things is they're told that there aren't side effects as well, because so many things on the planet are safe and effective. Anyone in a position of power is actually bribed or manipulated not to actually go find out. I believe that's true.
Well,
and that's my opinion given 30 years of experience. So, because I've had lots of people talk to lots of doctors about this over decades. So that is definitely my experience as a practitioner. So that's a really nice overview. The next little part 2 is going to be about the parts of the brain and how they affect us. Hope you've enjoyed that.
Thank you very much, everyone.